Your daughter messaged me, by the way, very early this morning. She has many concerns about you throwing around stories, but never actually sitting down and recording them.
Because it's not of great, I don't mean disrespect, okay?
No,
it's not of great interest.
Yeah, we're highly disrespected.
You know, guys would go for a beer and I tell them something, they say, what? What? I said, well, you should write a book.
Well, let me ask you a question. How many times do you tell something to someone and they say, Jack, don't tell me this ever again. I'm bored out of my skull.
I've never had anybody tell me that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
My parents were born in England. I'm not sure when they came to Canada, but they were young. And then when my dad went off to war, they were living in Verdun. And then when he came back from overseas, we moved to Pointe Claire in 1946. They got married and they had a reception at the old Pointe Claire Hotel, which became Houston's and Clyde's and whatever else it was called in the time from Chegnier's. And they had a little reception at the Pointe Claire Yacht Club. And I believe a day or two later, my dad went back overseas.
So right now, the way you've described it is, let's say the veterans area was a very self-contained, kind of closed-in...
Very much so.
Network. When would you say that expanded to more of a greater part of Pointe Claire? Like that close-knit thing started to open up a little bit? Well,
I think it was probably the demand for single housing, and probably some of the old farmers on St. John's Road realized that how hard it is to farm, and they could sell their land and make a good buck.
Their kids didn't want to take it over?
The kids didn't want to take it over, no. A lot of the houses, including my parents, we had chicken coops. In the fall, people with Mr. Cruz, he was the executioner. People would bring their chickens there in the fall, and he lopped off the head, and it was quite a spectacular, because the kids would go there and see the chickens fluttering around with no head there for a minute or two, you know.
Is that where the expression comes from? Running around like a chicken?
Yeah, like a chicken with your head cut off, because they really do run around after their heads come off. Nothing went to waste, because there wasn't a lot of money. You know, I mean, not every family. Some were fortunate, but a lot made use of everything that we had. And when they were building the McGill development, there was lots of lumber, I'm sure, that disappeared over the weekend. You know, you never saw anybody, whatever kind of work they were doing on the properties, they never dumped a load of sand on a vacant lot on a Friday, because it wasn't going to be there on Monday when they came back.
What happened was the builders who were building all the homes had a shack that was where they kept all their tools and everything, and then when construction was done, they left, tools left, shack stayed.
That was our tar paper shack. That's where Santa Claus used to come.
When they developed the whole area, they must have known that this was going to be a place for a park or something, or was that decided by the citizens?
Back then, you know, you'd have to say that probably 85 or 90% of the people that bought a home was because they had kids. So you could see the need for a facility for the kids. It was the hub of activity. In my case, it was Cubs. My mother was one of the first Brownie leader. My father was a Sea Scout leader down in Venture. The hockey programs, the movies, the Halloween parties. So yeah, everything. It meant everything to the kids. Oh yeah, for sure. There was a lot of people involved in the city in various other aspects of the city, whether they coached hockey or baseball, or the mothers were Brownies or guides. It was a real community, but they all were, because you were isolated. And the Lakeside Heights would hold adult dances once a month, and they were maxed out, like I think, you know, whatever they could hold. And the New Year's Eve party, I mean, you had to get your tickets in October. They had a tombola every year in the spring. That was like a little fair. They would raise.
That was hosted by the Citizens Association.
Hosted by the citizens. Kids used to help out. When I was old enough, I used to call the kids bingo on Saturday afternoon. They had under and over, crown and anchor. They had a fish pond, bingo. They sold hot dogs and stuff. And in the early days, the ladies used to pass around. It was a big wicker basket, and it would come to your house with cookies or whatever in it for you, if you wanted them. And then you were supposed to put in a dime or a quarter or whatever, bake something and pass it on to the next neighbor.
Okay, so you delivered the Lakeshore News?
Yes.
Which was, I guess, a common job for a lot of kids.
Well, it was once a week. The publisher, the editor, whatever you want to call him, was Mr. Freeman. And the office was almost right across from Wild Willie's in that little, there's a bunch of offices there. And there's a clothing store in there now. It was in there anyway. And when you would go to collect, you collected once a month, and there was a lot of people, you know, they give you 35 cents, but they wanted their 2 pennies back, you know, or something. But that's the way it was.
And did you deliver milk as well?
I helped the milkman, Mr. Champagne. I helped him. Everybody did. We all did.
What would it have come in? Was it in a
glass bottle? Yeah.
With a cork?
With the cap, bottle caps, that all the kids used to keep and paint them different colors, and you play closest to the wall.
A hard paper cap that were wedged in. That
and
was
in
wedged
in the winter, if you left the milk on the ladies' or men's front step, and it was cold, then the milk would freeze, and it would push the cap off.
What would they have to do? I guess that was.
Well,
they
take it
just
in,
knew
let
what
it thaw.
time.
Take it in, let it thaw, and go back down.
Yeah, but they knew what time the milk was being delivered.
Well, yeah, pretty well. But people were not always home, you know.